What's good, Motives? I hope you guys are doing well out there. It's the one and only Tone Motivates, back with another episode of Shades of Tone. And today we're going to be discussing trauma and relationships and basically just building trust and healthy connections after pain. And to everyone, Black History Month should be celebrated every day of the year, not just 1 month. But happy Black History Month to all of my folks out there that celebrate. So let's hop into it. Trauma is something very real, something that all of us have been through or experienced at some point in our lives. Unfortunately, we have been victims of trauma and at some point, unfortunately, been the culprits. And at the end of the day, I hope that everyone is able to take accountability and to just understand that in some situations, you accepting an apology that you will never receive is about the best that you can get, or closest you can get to healing and just, not letting it affect your life. So basically, navigating relationships after trauma is like trying to rebuild a house after a storm. The damage is there, but with the right tools, you can create something stronger and maybe even more beautiful. Now, for many in the Black community, trauma isn't just personal, it's generational and systemic. From historical injustices to present-day struggles, these experiences shape the way we connect with ourselves and others. And I can vividly remember being a single mom and having a young Black man and him getting to the level of like grade age. So regular school, I think he might have been in 2nd grade. And we heard about Trayvon Martin. And my son loves hoodies to this day. He is now 18 years old, a senior in high school. I'm so proud of him. But, my heart goes out to the family that was never able to see their young Black man cross the stage to go to prom, to have kids, to see what career he wanted to take out, all of that, just because somebody felt the need and felt entitled to think that this young Black man was a threat and that they had to take matters into their own hands. And I remember having fear over my young Black son just being, just him being, he not doing anything, but just literally freaking being, and it literally, it hurt me, it saddened me to my core. And I had to have painful conversations with my son just to know that he knew the steps to take to try to save his own life at the expense of others. Sometimes, unfortunately, at the same people that are supposed to protect us. So this conversation is very important, and it matters because healing our relationships is a powerful way to honor our ancestors who survived incredible hardships and to build a brighter future for the next generation. From the great Rosa Parks, she said, "I have learned over the years that when one mind is made up, this diminishes fear. Knowing what must be done does away with fear." And with that being said, I would like to know, what's one relationship in your life, past or present, that's been shaped by pain? Reflect on how it's influenced your ability to trust or connect. And I could be absolutely vulnerable with you guys here. And automatically, the 2 people that come to mind when I think of this question is my parents. I love them dearly. I would not be who I am today without them. And that is thanks or no thanks to them. And I appreciate them so much. And I understand that their, what they went through was not in vain. That I am who I am because of everything that they went through. But I remember a time when I was about 30. I might have just been shy of 30, hitting 30. And I just had like a rude awakening. And, I just really took accountability to all of the things, the bullshit that I did to people, the men that I've hurt, I played games with, knowing that they were serious about me and they wanted to court me and be with me and all this extra stuff. And it was terrifying to me. And I realized later on it was scary to me because my father was never consistent in my life. And because he was never consistent, I was always like that runaway bride. You know what I mean? Besides my son's father. And, he went off to jail. So again, that, confirmed to me that men in my life were never there to stay. It was just for a time, for a season. With my dad, anytime a guy would come around, I don't want nothing. I ain't looking for nothing, situationships, all that. And it was great men, but I literally pushed decent men away. And the ones that I would try to hold on to for dear life were the exact ones that I should have been running from. They were the ones that were emotionally unavailable. They were the ones that I literally had to help men and tape their hearts back together after a hard breakup or after their heart was being broken, and show them what, real love was like, or what it felt like to be loved unconditionally, just for me to, nurse them back to health pretty much, and they move on. And years passed, but, I eventually got into another relationship, and I felt like from the time that I started dating that man, I pretty much sabotaged it over and over again. Now, it wasn't only me. We both did all kinds of crazy things to each other, as far as neglect and lack of communication and, sexuality and intimacy and all kinds of stuff we did to each other for years and years and years. But we stayed connected to each other. So instead of just leaving each other alone, we continuously just hurt one another, up until, there was no more trust. And, we finally, I finally hurt him to no return. And I'll always, be apologetic to that. And he'll always have a special place in my heart because he did not deserve that. So that was a little vulnerability with you guys, right there. But, let's talk about, just reflecting on how it's influenced your ability to trust or connect that one relationship in your life. And to go back on that, I think the main thing for me is just knowing that I have to be 100 with myself, before I can be 100 with others. I can try to put up that facade or that persona for as long as I want to, but a person that truly wants to get to know me, truly, wants to build with me is going to see right through that shit. And I'm typically just continuing to sabotage by not being authentic to myself. And I owe it to myself and my audience. You know what I mean? I have paid clients and all that to consistently be honest with myself, to encourage others to be honest with themselves. But at the end of the day, even with all of that, I sleep by myself at night. You know what I mean? Even if someone's in the bed with me, I'm alone with my thoughts. And it's no fun, basically having someone's feelings at the expense of you not being 100 with yourself. And I'll leave it at that. So guys, I just want you to think about, how it influenced your ability to trust or connect. So moving on, let's talk about how trauma impacts relationships. Okay. So one of the things that we have is emotional barriers, right? And trauma in relationships is like carrying an umbrella indoors. It's protection you don't need anymore, but you're afraid to let it go. And some of the most common barriers is difficulty trusting others and emotional withdrawal or hypervigilance. And I think in one way or another, we can either be very dependent of others or hyper independent or, all those things. Those all show up in different ways. But the role of generational and cultural trauma from a historical context is basically centuries of oppression taught survival. But those survival tactics can make vulnerability and trust feel unsafe. An example of that is fear of asking for help due to cultural stigmas around vulnerability. And that goes back again to being a strong Black woman. I am, and I know that I speak for thousands, hundreds of thousands of women. I am tired of being a strong Black woman. I do not want to be no fucking strong Black woman no more. I want to be soft, posh, in my element. You know what I mean? Like, being a strong Black woman and being resilient and all that shit, it to me is not a good connotation. You know what I mean? It's my reaction to trying to fucking survive, being a vulnerable woman in this world that looks at me as the second most dangerous person. The first being a Black man. You know what I mean? And, just having to consistently watch out for yourself. You can't be too aggressive or too loud, because then you're angry, and then you this and then you that. Is it okay to wear your hair this way? Could you wear this? And it's it's just a lot. It's a lot, and I don't think that other cultures realize it. Not taking away from other cultures, because everybody has something they went through too, especially foreigners. But at the end of the day, it's just a lot. It's just a lot. So, fear of asking for help due to them cultural stigmas, my friends tell me all the time, like, girl, you don't ask, closed mouth don't get fed, closed mouth don't gotta be fed if I feed myself. But just knowing that sometimes it's not physically asking for food, it's asking somebody's opinion or asking if somebody knows about this or know about that, that is forms of help too. And I realized that with raising my hand or reaching my hand out, that I'm so informative and I give so much to the community around me that people are typically jumping to help me and stuff like that. So, that's just little steps that I'm taking to become a better person, which leads to the next thing, which is impact on communication. Okay. Misinterpretations and defense mechanisms. Sometimes we're so busy protecting ourselves that we miss what the other person is truly saying. And I say this all the time, even to my students, to the scholars and stuff like that. It's like, are you listening to understand, or are you listening to respond? And I felt that for a long time that I felt truly misunderstood, or that for the most part, people didn't, comprehend what I was saying or understand what I was saying. And I walked around assuming that people were going to misunderstand me from jump, which was not necessarily the case, right? So now here we are with me going into a situation automatically thinking that when it's not actually the case. And in turn, because I'm thinking that that is how the person comes off to me, because I already put that out there in the air, right? So, I have a little reflection prompt for you, right? You know it. So think of a recent conflict you've had. Were you reacting to the situation or to old wounds? And typically that is always a way to get your gears turning, to realize the way that you act and what part you played in the situation. Because if you are coming from a place of old wounds, then we can work on those wounds. Okay. And sometimes, exactly what you need, you have to be accountable to what it is that's going on or how you're reacting to something in order to be able to grow from it. If you do not accept it, how could you grow from it? Okay. So, behavioral patterns in relationships could be people pleasing to avoid conflict, avoidance of deep connections, and stuff like that. So, just being detached, not wanting to really connect with people, don't really want to let them in because you feel like in some way, they're going to let you down or they're going to judge you, or, you're just a yes person because you rather be liked. You know what I mean? Like, it's that important for you to be liked that you just try to fit in instead of standing out, or, just having a real backbone and saying, no, I don't agree with that. We can agree to disagree, and still be cool, etc. So I do have another challenge for you. What's one pattern you've noticed in your relationships? Could it be rooted in past pain? Let me know. Y'all always could time in, text in. Okay. So next, we're going to talk about steps to build trust and healthy connections. The first step is to acknowledge and accept your trauma. Trauma is like a scar. It's part of your story, but it doesn't define your worth or your ability to connect. And I want you guys to write down one way your trauma has shaped you. Then write one strength it's helped you develop. So I would say a trauma that has shaped me is always feeling like I didn't have anyone to turn to, right? Like nobody was ever there for me. So one strength for me would be me being a go-getter. Me knowing that there's nobody there to save me. And even if it was, not expecting it. Okay. Step 2, set healthy boundaries. So a little bit of analogy behind that. Boundaries are like fences. They're not there to shut people out, but to protect what matters most to you. So some tips on that is learn to say no without guilt. Sometimes no is a sentence. N-O, period. That's it. That's all. No. Communicate your needs clearly. A lot of times we expect people to just read our minds. They don't know what the hell we talking about. We don't know, let alone what we talking about. They don't know what the hell we thinking about. Okay, so at a time I used to be like, oh, I over-communicate. I'm an over-communicator. No, I'm a communicator. And you either can accept that or you can't. And if you're not the talking type, and we can sit here and talk about our feelings and emotions, then that pretty much lets me know where we stand, period. Okay? So, in addition to that, what's one boundary you'd like to set in your life? Practice how you say it out loud. Next, let's rebuild trust. Rebuilding trust is like planting a garden. It takes time, effort, and the right conditions. But the results are worth it. Start with small steps. Be consistent and patient with yourself and others. Step 4, foster healthy communication. Practice active listening. Listen to understand, not to respond. Now, you could do a fun role-playing exercise if you like, right? Do this with your friends, family, whoever you like, and pretend you're having a difficult conversation with someone. Practice responding with empathy instead of defensiveness. Okay? So, let's move into the power of healing in relationships. Healing is a community effort. Our ancestors didn't survive alone. They leaned on each other. Healing our relationships is a way to carry that legacy forward. Collective healing could be seen as family therapy, community support groups, whoever your people is. Your people do not have to be your biological family. I have my own soul tribe, and it's made up of people that I choose to be around, I choose to be vulnerable with, etc. So, I once thought... This is a funny story. Well, not funny to y'all, but y'all know how I do. I once thought setting boundaries would push people away. Instead, it deepened my friendships because people finally understood my needs. Like, Tone needs something. You know what I mean? Tone is not always okay. So, with that being said, let me know what's one small way you can start building trust, either with someone else or with yourself this week. Chime in. I love to hear. So, let's recap. Today, we acknowledge trauma, but don't let it define us. We set boundaries that protect our peace, and we take small steps toward rebuilding trust and fostering communication. Relationships after trauma are like mosaics. They might not look perfect, but they're made of pieces that tell a beautiful story of resilience and growth. Share this episode with someone who's working on their relationships and let me know, what's one way you're reclaiming connection in your life? I love to hear from you guys, and as always, always love. To respond to a question, make a suggestion for an episode, to be a guest, or give feedback, reach out to us at info@tonemotivates.com. You can also find us on social media at Tone Motivates on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and at Shades of Tone _podcast on Instagram and Facebook. And as always, you can find us at tonemotivates.com, where all of those links are as well.